Your oven has been lying to you. Not the grease, not the burnt smell, not the black crust on the bottom rack that came back 3 weeks after you scrubbed it raw. The lie is the can under your sink, the one with the warning label that tells you to wear gloves, open a window, keep children out of the room. You followed every instruction. You sprayed, you waited, you wiped until your arm gave out, and 6 weeks later the smoke smell came back, sharp and bitter, the same as before. Somewhere in this country, someone is charging $8 for that can, and they know something you do not. They know the can does not finish the job. It only finishes the surface. What finishes the job is a paste you can mix in a bowl in 3 minutes, from ingredients that cost less than a cup of coffee. I am going to show you exactly what is in it, why it works when the can does not, and why nobody selling cleaning products has ever mentioned it. My name is Takeshi Mori. The credential I bring to this is not a certificate on a wall. It is the kitchen of my grandmother's farmhouse in Niigata Prefecture, where I have cooked and cleaned since I was old enough to reach the counter. That kitchen has one oven, cast iron cavity, older than I am. My grandmother used it every day from the time she was a young woman, and I have used it every day since she passed it to me. In 31 years of cooking in that oven, I have never once used a commercial cleaner. Not once. The oven smells clean when the heat comes on. That is the test that does not lie. What should bother you is this. The paste I'm about to describe is made from ingredients any household already has, costs almost nothing, and has been known in working kitchens for generations. The people selling you the alternative are aware of it. They have chosen to stay quiet. By the end of this, you will understand the chemistry, the method, and the quiet arithmetic behind the silence. Let me start with what nearly everyone gets wrong, because if you do not understand this first part, the paste will not make sense when we get to it. The thing everyone trusts is the foam, the professional strength spray in the heavy can, the one marketed with words like industrial and deep action. It feels serious. The label treats it seriously. Rubber gloves required. Ventilation required. Do not let contact occur with skin. You follow those instructions because they sound like the instructions of something powerful, something equal to the job. And the job does feel large. Baked on oven grease is hard. It is dark and glassy, and it does not move for a sponge. So you reach for something that matches it in force. The modern world will tell you this is correct thinking. Oven grease, according to the logic of the cleaning aisle, requires chemistry. Specifically, it requires lye, sodium hydroxide, a caustic alkaline compound strong enough to dissolve organic matter on contact. The foam works by attacking the surface of the grease layer from above, breaking down its outer structure, softening what the heat hardened. You spray, you wait, you wipe, and it is cleaner than it was. So you believe it worked. Here is the thing they do not put on the label. Polymerized grease, the kind that bakes onto an oven surface through months and years of repeated high heat, is not held there by strength. It is held there by adhesion. It bonded to the metal surface as it contracted and cooled, gripping the fine surface texture, the way ice grips stone in the cold months before the thaw. Lye dissolves the top of that layer. It does not break the bond underneath. So you wipe away what the foam loosened, and what remains is a thinner version of the same problem, still bonded, still gripping, waiting for the heat to polymerize it again. The cycle restarts. 6 weeks later, the smell comes back. The can does one thing only. It takes the surface off, and in doing only that, it ensures you will need another can by spring. That is not a flaw in the product. That is the product. Hold this in the back of your mind. The ingredient that breaks the bond underneath is not an acid and not a solvent. It is something you likely already have in a cardboard box in your pantry, something your grandmother kept because it made bread rise. I will tell you what it does to grease in a few minutes, and when I do, it will make a particular kind of sense. Keep it there for now. My grandmother did not have a word for what she was doing when she cleaned the oven. She did not need one. She would say, "Let the paste do the loosening, and let the cloth do the carrying." That was the whole instruction. "If you are scrubbing," she told me once, "the paste has not finished. Wait longer." I thought she was being patient in the way old people are patient. She was not being patient. She was describing a chemical process she understood through 30 years of outcome without ever having taken a chemistry lesson in her life. Here is what is actually happening, stated plainly. The baked-on grease in your oven is largely polymerized fat. Fat that has been oxidized through repeated high heat until it cross-links into a hard layer, glassy and dark, bonded mechanically to the metal surface beneath it. To remove that layer, you do not need to dissolve it from above. You need to penetrate it from below. You need something that can work its way between the grease and the metal, convert the base of that layer into a compound that no longer adheres, and float the whole crust free. Baking soda, sodium bicarbonate, is mildly alkaline. Its pH sits between 8 and 9. When it comes into contact with the fatty acid compounds at the base of polymerized grease, it initiates a slow saponification reaction. It begins converting the grease, at its point of contact with the metal, into a soap-like compound. Soap does not adhere to metal. Soap slides. When that conversion happens at the base of the grease layer, the crust above it loses its grip. The moisture in the paste, meanwhile, works under the edges overnight. By morning, the layer is not dissolved. It is detached. It sits on top of a thin film of its own converted residue, and a damp cloth lifts it free without force. This is why bread rises. Baking soda reacts with the acids in dough and produces carbon dioxide, which lifts the structure from within. In the oven, it reacts with fatty acids in old grease and produces a compound that no longer wants to hold on. Same alkaline chemistry, different surface, same box of powder sitting in the same kitchen where my grandmother baked bread every Thursday morning and wiped the oven clean every Sunday night without ever connecting the two things consciously. Patient as water finding its level through stone. That is what the paste does. The paste itself is 3 ingredients, and the order matters. Start with half a cup of baking soda, plain sodium bicarbonate, the kind sold for baking, not the kind sold for pools or industrial use. This is the active compound. Everything else in the paste serves it. Add 2 tablespoons of ordinary dish soap, not concentrated gel, not antibacterial foam, not anything with added bleach. Plain dish soap for hand washing. The surfactant compounds in it do 2 things. They hold the paste together so it does not slide off vertical surfaces, and they help the mixture spread into the fine grain of the oven wall, rather than sitting on top of it. Add water slowly, a teaspoon at a time, stirring as you go until the paste holds its shape when you press it. It should sit like a thick winter porridge. If it pours, it will run down the oven walls and pool at the bottom, where it reaches nothing. Thick. It holds. It spreads where you put it and stays there. Apply with a silicone brush, an old paintbrush, or a gloved hand. Spread it across every interior surface of a fully cold oven, the walls, the floor, the ceiling, the inside of the door. Avoid the heating element itself. Cover everything else in an even layer. Close the door. Go to sleep. In the morning, take a damp cloth and wipe from the top down. The paste will have dried to a pale gray crust. As you wipe, the baked-on grease comes with it in dark sheets, lifting cleanly from the surface beneath. Rinse the cloth and continue. Where a stubborn corner holds on, a second wipe is enough. Not scrubbing. Wiping. The bond is already gone. A study from food science research institutions in Germany and Japan confirmed that sodium bicarbonate at pH 8.3 initiates measurable saponification of polymerized fatty acids within 4 to 6 hours of contact at room temperature. The German Federal Environment Agency has formally recommended baking soda-based cleaning pastes as a low-emission alternative to commercial caustic oven cleaners since 2017, citing that standard commercial lye sprays release volatile organic compounds into indoor air at concentrations that exceed recommended limits in typical kitchen ventilation. The answer has been on the baking shelf the whole time, not discontinued, not hidden behind a counter, sitting in the same cardboard box people put in the refrigerator to absorb smell. Overlooked, because overlooked things do not take out advertisements. My grandmother's generation did not think of this as a method. It was simply how the oven was cleaned. The way wiping a cast iron pan with a little salt after use is not a technique. It is just what you do when the pan belongs to your family, and you expect it to outlast you. The knowledge did not disappear because it stopped working. It disappeared because the household that moved from the countryside to the city apartment in the 1960s and 1970s did not bring a grandmother with it. They brought themselves, and themselves needed a supermarket. And the supermarket had a shelf, and the shelf had a can, and the can had a label that said professional strength, and that felt like an upgrade. Here is the arithmetic, and it is only arithmetic. A box of baking soda costs less than $1 and yields multiple applications. A can of commercial oven cleaner costs between $6 and $10 and is finished in one use. A household that cleans the oven 4 or 5 times a year spends $40 to $50 on that shelf. Across a country of households, the oven cleaner market represents hundreds of millions of dollars annually. There is no margin in a bowl of paste, no subscription model, no repeat purchase. No one places an advertisement for baking soda and dish soap because no one can build a business on it. So the advertisement does not run, and the generation that forgot the old way never hears it from the new one because the new one only knows the shelf. The knowledge is not locked away. It is simply quiet. And quiet things do not survive in a market that rewards volume. Let me be straight with you now, because the work matters more than the story around it. The paste works. 31 years of outcome in one kitchen is not a sample size that lies. But I will tell you what it will not do, because the people who oversell old remedies create a different kind of problem than the people who ignore them. If your oven carries a decade of accumulated grease, thick as resin and dark through to the metal, one application may not complete the job. Apply it a second night. The saponification process needs full contact time, and a very heavy layer may require 2 full cycles to detach cleanly. The oven must be cold before application. Warm metal changes the reaction rate, and the paste will dry too fast to penetrate. Do not apply it to the heating element, the thermostat probe, or the rubber door seal. Those surfaces need a damp cloth only, no paste, no alkaline compound. The commercial foam does work faster on extreme soiling, and I will not pretend otherwise. If the oven has not been cleaned in years and you have guests arriving tomorrow, the can will do something visible in 2 hours. But the fumes that product releases in an enclosed kitchen are documented. The skin warning on the label exists because the warning is real, and the reason the grease returns within weeks is also real. Know what you are trading. Here is everything, short enough to carry. Cold oven, half a cup of baking soda, 2 tablespoons of plain dish soap, water added slowly until the paste holds its shape. Spread it on every surface except the heating element. Close the door. Sleep. Morning, damp cloth from top to bottom. 2 nights for a heavily soiled oven. Keep the paste away from the element and the door seal. $3. 1 night. No scrubbing. The whole rule fits in one breath. The most reliable things are almost always the simplest. It is not the complicated tools that last in a household. It is the ones with nothing in them that can break. Next time, I am going to show you what my grandmother did to keep the cast iron in that same kitchen from rusting through 50 winters of damp Niigata air. One ingredient, 4 minutes. The pan she treated with it is still in daily use, and there is not a spot of rust on it. No one sells the method because there is nothing to sell. Come back. I will show you. Take care of the things in your kitchen. They will outlast you if you let them.